So if you practice meditation in your life, then it's possible that at the time when you die, you can die consciously, similar to the meditation we just did. This is a very good way to die. Also, before you die, it's good to generate positive mind like compassion, loving kindness, or wisdom, understanding emptiness, so that your mind at the time of death is in a state of Dharma. If you have a guru, then think about your guru, or if you have faith in the Buddha, then think about the Buddha. But as you go through these visions that were described, then your mind becomes less and less conceptual. So you can't control exactly what you're going to think, but through the meditation, your mind is quite stable and calm. And this is the best way to die. And then this intermediate state being that you become, the body is made of energy, wind energy. So it's like a dream body. And it can go very quickly anywhere. Wherever you think, then you arrive there, like in a dream. So this is why when someone close to us died recently, we sometimes feel they're in the room, because they thought about us and they came there. And also this intermediate state being can actually read the mind of the ordinary people. So if someone close to you dies, you can feel it's quite possible that they are here in the place with you and they do know what you're thinking. So for that reason, it's very good to wish them a peaceful time and to let go easily and to move on with a calm mind. I mean, whatever is appropriate for the person, depends who it is and what your relationship is, what kind of thoughts, but you can communicate with them. And when it's us, then we become this intermediate state being, and it can last up to 7 days, and then we have to go through another death, and then it's possible that we emerge again as another intermediate state being. And this can happen up to 7 times. So each time can be 7 days, so maximum 49 days. At some point during that time, we will take rebirth in an ordinary body, in a normal situation of a normal, ordinary being like ourselves, due to our karma. And for example, if we're going to be born a human, then we will, as an intermediate state being, we can be present at a time when the mother and father are having sexual intercourse, and that way when we can be present when the sperm and the egg join, and then the intermediate state being dies. That means that the mind again becomes into the clear light, and at that time joins with the sperm and the egg. Okay, so it's like being drawn in there and joining with the sperm and the egg, and that is the consciousness of the new life. So the consciousness of the new life is coming from an intermediate state being, and then the body of the new life is coming from the mother and father. So that's how a new life begins. That's how this life began. When we joined this life, we came like that from a previous life, with the cells of the mother and father. Yep.
So consciousness starts when sperm and the egg meet, or later?
Well, at the time when the sperm and the egg meet, yes, there's also at that time the clear light consciousness joins. But the clear light consciousness is very subtle. That means it's got no concept. It's just pure awareness. It's totally clear. And so there's no thoughts at that time. But gradually, even in the early stage in the womb, some subtle appearances can begin to occur. So, for instance, we're going to reverse from the clear light to the black near attainment, to the red increase, to the white appearance, and then the butter lamp, the sparks, the smoke, the mirage, and then there's some presence already in the womb. Even at very early stage, there's some mental presence of awareness. And gradually, during the time in the womb, that consciousness will become more similar to the consciousness now, but still quite subtle, actually, compared to an adult consciousness. I mean, the baby has a much more subtle consciousness than an adult. Even a child, like 5 or 6 years, you can see their mind is much more subtle than our adult mind. It changes, doesn't it, through childhood, through puberty, adolescence, until we reach adulthood, when our mind is quite formed and the gross thoughts are already quite developed. So in the womb, the consciousness is already becoming more aware, and also the sense organs are beginning to develop in the womb. So even in the womb, we can see light and dark at a certain point. We can hear sounds, and we also have the sense of touch. Okay? Then if you think about birth, the experience of being born obviously is a very traumatic experience because there's incredible pressure. There may be some exceptions where the experience of birth is very calm, but this is quite unusual. Usually it's so traumatic that we suppress the memory of it. We don't remember it mostly. Very few people actually remember being born. Because at that time we come into a completely new environment. We're leaving the womb, which is our habit, where we were, and we're coming into the big space with the lights and the sounds, and we take a breath with our lungs, and we cry in order to unblock. We're experiencing touch in a rough way, maybe cold, and all these different things we experience. And then there's some kind of impulse to go for the mother's breast, and then there's some beginning to take the food from the mother, and so then there's some sort of satisfaction of feeding, and so then this whole sort of life begins of hunger, satisfaction, like that. Even at that point, we don't have a sense of a separate self. There is a sort of impulse to feed and so forth, and we cry when we're not happy, but it takes a little while, and then there comes a sense of the separate self with the mother, me and you. And at that point is the beginning of the self-grasping. The consciousness of me as a separate person. Okay? And then from that we build this whole identity of separateness. But all this is constructed by the mind. It's not literally true. There is actually not a separate self. There is no self in that sense. It's just something that we construct with our mind. Of course, there's a body and there is a mind, but the self is something we construct. Okay? You can feel it now. If you check, you can feel this self. But if you look, where is it? You can't find it. You can't find it. You could say, yes, there's a body here, and there's a consciousness, knowing things, feeling things, experiencing things through the senses. This mind is functioning, yeah? But self is something we make up. Not, we're helped to do that by our other people. They project this personality onto this person. Like now you're listening to Andy, so you've got this concept of Andy, and maybe I'm absorbing it and thinking, oh, I'm the Andy that they're all listening to. So then there's this construct of self. And then we go through life. And then, again, at the end, we go through this death process again. We're not always human. We can be reborn in many different forms. I mean, we're very aware of the animal form and the human form, but there are other forms of life that we can be born in, which a human being can't see with the eyes. But these different ways, realms of existence, they exist. And so we go from one to the other, and each one has its own sufferings. And all the sufferings are based on this grasping at self. Me. I feel this, I protect myself, I am happy, I'm sad, I'm in pain, all these different things. So this is called samsara, or cyclic existence. Death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, just like that. But when we meet the Dharma, through the teaching of Buddha, there is the possibility to transcend this process. And there is a level of being which is beyond this cycle of death and rebirth. There is a level of being we call nirvana. Nirvana is based on the reality of no self or emptiness. When we realize that, then this is something stable. This is something which is not subject to birth and death. This is the nature of the subtle mental consciousness which goes from life to life, is emptiness or not existing by itself. That nature, which we call emptiness, is stable. It's not changing moment to moment. When through the Dharma practice we unite our mind with this nature of emptiness, then we attain peace, inner peace and stability, which is not affected by birth and death. If we have the motivation to benefit others, such as the Bodhisattva, the one who is dedicated to work for others, then we can take a new life, but not from karma, through compassion. Through compassion, the Bodhisattvas are born in samsara, but they're not controlled by samsara. They're controlled by compassion. And so it's a different kind of relationship to the body, the mind, the environment, the other people. It's a different relationship from the one that most of us have, usually. Usually our relationship is very me, selfish, my happiness, and like that. For the Bodhisattva, the relationship is the opposite. It's benefiting others, compassion for others, love towards others, and helping others. And so the Bodhisattva lives the life like that. And within, the Bodhisattva is free, already free, through nirvana. Now, it's not that this person, Andy, or whatever, whoever you are, is reborn. It's not that. It's not that. Because when the mind goes to the clear light level, that person is gone. That's gone, definitely. That died. So this isn't some kind of explanation that I am going to continue. It's not like that. That person is gone. But something that continues we call the subtle mental consciousness. That is a very deep level of consciousness, which is the clear light. And that one is like ticking, 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 moment, 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 moment. It's always there. Subtle mental consciousness. Right now, if you're thinking something, you're using your gross mental consciousness. You have some thoughts, some ideas, some words in your mind, maybe some feelings. That is gross mental consciousness. When you die, all that will go. All that will goodbye. That's gone. But the subtle mental consciousness, which is the deeper level, that will continue. And that will then begin again in a new life with a new set of everything. Family, friends, environment. Maybe we'll be a dog. So we'll be born into a dog mind with a dog body and dog family and so forth, like that. Dog food, dog sleep, dog's dreams. Just think, this can happen. If the karma of the moment that we die throws us there, then we'll be dog.
It depends on what?
It depends on the state of the mind just before we die. This is what throws us into the next life. It ripens a particular karmic potential for that. So this is one main reason why it's good to die with a very positive mind, in order to achieve the human rebirth again. Human rebirth is the best rebirth for practicing Dharma. It's not perfect, it's still suffering, we still have problems, but we can practice Dharma. We can transcend this cyclic existence of samsara if we have a human form. As a dog, we can't do that. We can't. A dog has intelligence, yeah, but not that intelligence. Not to meditate, not to practice Dharma. Can't do that. Human can do that. So right now we're very, very fortunate. We have a human rebirth, and we met the teachings, and we're learning how to practice, and we are practicing. So it's very, very good. We must feel very fortunate, appreciate what we have. I mean, we should feel very happy. We shouldn't feel miserable. Sometimes we get depressed. Actually, we should be happy with what we have. We're very fortunate. And it's unusual. Just look at the world. How unusual this is to have this. Very unusual. Very unusual. And so we should make the most of this opportunity.
And still, it doesn't guarantee that in the next life we are going to be human.
No, but what it does is it creates some potentials that they will not disappear. The potentials we create from our Dhamma practice, from our positive actions, those potentials will stay. But it's the mind at the time of death which is what throws us to the immediate next life. But those potentials go with us. So if next life we're a dog, it may be when we die from that one, something will change in our mind and we come back in the human. These things can happen. It's very... it's hard to predict what will happen. We have to accept that.
Is there a possibility that when with the sperm and the egg and such consciousness is entering that comes, it's always come from previous life? Isn't that possible that it comes as brand new consciousness?
Not according to the Buddha's teaching, because nothing like that can have no cause. And the Buddha taught that the mind always has the cause of a previous mind. And you can check that. We did a meditation last time, if you remember, where we remembered the previous moment or the previous hour or the previous day. And you can see from this kind of practice that the mind always causes the mind. So when you say comes new, what caused it? You see, I mean, you might say, oh, well, it might be this or it might be that. But the Buddha's teaching is what caused the mind is always previous mind. And that is why the Buddha taught beginningless. Beginningless mind, mind without beginning. And that means that we always took rebirth since beginningless time. No beginning. Because logically, you can't find a first moment of mind. This is logical, but also this is the teaching of the Buddha. It's hard for us to imagine no beginning, because we think, well, the universe began, but this teaching also teaches previous universes. So there's no beginning to the number of universes either. Sorry, Alan, yeah?
Well, it's kind of logical question, so how come population increases?
Oh, it's on this planet. How many planets in the universe, or in the infinite universes, have life? You don't know. So we can be reborn from planet to planet, no question. Because the intermediate state being is like a neutrino. It's very subtle. It can travel very, very fast, just like the speed of thought. You know, a neutrino can travel through the earth like that, in no time, hardly any time. Same with the intermediate state being. It can be anywhere where the mind goes. So like that, it's possible to go from planet to planet. So if this planet is totally destroyed, we can be reborn elsewhere. I'm not recommending that we destroy it, but we do have some fear. We have a fear that the planet will be destroyed, so let's drop that fear and try to keep the planet out of compassion, but not out of personal sort of anxiety. Our continuum will continue. Yeah.
Once I was really intrigued. How can I promise that my next life will be as much as I can as human?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked Tate Rinpoche,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me, if I remember right, maybe correct me if I missed something. We should be generous. We should have moral life, and we should pray and ask for next life as human.
Oh yeah. Definitely moral. They say that the human life, the main karmic cause, is practicing ethics or morality. Definitely, yeah. If you're generous, then it means that you'll have enough wealth. That's the karmic result. Yeah. And if you pray to meet the teachings, the Dharma, then you will continue your connection with the practice in the next life. Yeah. Okay. So I think we stop the talk there.